No, stay back!
My name is Steel.
What? You speak English.
Max!
My mom is coming.
Is my mom dangerous?
No, come on.
Go cold hands. You gotta clean in here, but be stronger. And I haven't even shown you the best part yet.
What? This is awesome.
You're welcome.
To you now, Max.
After moving around a lot, Max and his mom return to the house where he lived as a baby. While unpacking, Max finds a photo of his dad, Jim, who passed away. But something unusual happens when he touches the photo. The TV starts glitching, bewildered, and thinks he's seeing stuff. Max wipes his face and heads to school. On the way, he passes an old laboratory called Ntech, where his dad used to work. As he glances at the place, his mom sends him a text. But when Max picks up his phone, his hands make it shut off fully. Now he's sure something's wrong with him. Panicking, Max pedals his bike to school, yet he's so distracted that he almost crashes with a truck. He flips his bike over a railing. Max wakes up to see a girl named Sophia, the one driving the truck, checking on him. After making convinced he's fine, she instructs him to meet her after school so she may mend his bike. Max feels well again and heads to school. While wandering the halls, he finds a plaque dedicated to his dad, saying he died during a hurricane. Later, Sophia meets Max and takes him to her residence to repair his bike. When she's done, Max thanks her, rides back home, and finds his parents talking to Dr. Miles, who currently controls Ntech. Miles used to work with Max's dad. Max's mom introduces them, then orders Max to go take a shower. But when Max gets out of the bathroom, that bizarre glitching emotion happens again. Meanwhile, at the Ntech lab, something unusual is happening. A little alien Ike drone illuminates climbs inside one of their ponds and starts giving forth odd energies. The scientists notice, but when someone tries to get close, things get dangerous. The drone escapes, sneaking past guards and fleeing the building by burrowing into the dirt. Back at home, Max sits down for dinner with his mom. She explains that Miles was there the day of the accident that killed his dad. Hearing this scares Max greatly and his powers flash up, cutting all the power at the house while he goes to the basement to fix the fuse box. Max finds survival supplies, food, water, and hurricane guidance buried away. This makes him even more curious. Eventually, Max reconnects the electricity and goes back upstairs where his mom and Dr. Miles are arguing. Miles leaves but offers Max his business card, suggesting he can call if he wants answers. Later, Max searches Miles on the computer and finds news on the tornado that destroyed the Ntech lab. As he learns more, Max's powers start acting up again. His hands start lighting with some form of liquid energy. Confused and overwhelmed, Max heads outside to test his powers. He realizes he's like a human battery capable of producing energy, but because he doesn't know how to regulate it, things around him blow up. After his test, Max moves on a date with Sophia at a restaurant. During their dinner, Max's talents commence acting up again. He feels unwell, temporarily loses his hearing and even produces a blackout in the eatery. Panicked, he rushes to the bathroom. Under the darkness, he understands his entire body is shining. Scared of being discovered, Max flees out of the diner, leaving Sophia behind without any explanation. Not knowing what's happening to him, Max rides his bike well into the jungle, but his body finally gives out, and he releases a tremendous explosion of energy before collapsing. Out of nowhere, something comes in front of him and Max passes out. When he wakes up the next morning, he finds himself in his bed. His clothes are completely demolished, leaving him much more confused as he heads to the bathroom to ponder. He notices an unusual white drone following him. Freaked out, Max hurries to his room and attempts to lock the door, but the small robot follows him. Desperate, Max takes a bat to defend himself. Sensing Max's worry, the drone talks, begging him to calm down. It announces itself as Steel, an extraterrestrial entity that feeds on the particular energy Max's body generates. Steel explains it is supposed to safeguard Max from losing control. Like what happened in the forest, Max, still in disbelief, asks who Steel is and where it originates from. Steel says it doesn't recall everything, but knows its mission is to safeguard Max. As they converse, Max's mom enters into the room in a haste. Max hides Steel in the laundry basket. After his mom goes, Steel notices Max's energy building up again and attaches to his chest to absorb the extra power. Are worried mom might find out about Steel. Max takes him into the wilderness to discuss. While they're conversing, two black SUVs pull up nearby. Armed dudes get out and start hunting for Steel, compelling Max and the alien to run for their lives. During the flee, something unusual happened. Max and Steel's brains link, and Max sees a remembrance of his dad, Jim. In this memory, Jim is plagued by weird creatures named Ultralinks. Max doesn't understand why their memories are related, but resolves to figure it out later. Thinking school could be safer, Max brings Steel to class, but the tiny alien can't stay out of trouble. Constantly almost exposing them, frustrated and confused of what to do next, Max hides beneath the school bleachers with Steel. They try to recover more of Steel's memories, but come up with nothing. Until Steel sees Max's drawing of the Oldentech lab. When Steel discovers the lab was attacked by Ultralinks, Max decides to break in and investigate. They sneak into the limited location where his father's lab used to be. Once inside, Max's talents go out of control again, but Steel stabilizes him. This leads them to discover something called turbo energy. Max tests his new abilities and realizes that he's extraordinarily strong and fast. So strong he can punch through concrete. Excited, Max spends the afternoon exercise with Steel to improve his agility. Max tries Parker, but slips and falls from a considerable height. In a split second, Steel changes into armor to shield him from the fall. Max is shocked and asks Steel what just happened. Steel explains that when their energy syncs up, they can create defensive armor combined. With the armor on, Max experiences another memory of Steel's past. This time, he sees Ultralinks infiltrating his dad's lab, and Steel was there when it all happened. Curious, Max asks how Steel knew his dad, but the small alien claims it can't recollect, decides he needs more answers. Max remembers Miles could know something. He gets home, discovers Miles' business card in the fridge with Entech's address, and heads there. On the way, Max chats to Steel, who reveals more about the Ultralinks, explaining they can control the elements and were likely guilty for the storm that murdered Max's dad. Distracted by the conversation, Max nearly gets hit by Sophia again. She stops her automobile this time to chastise him for almost creating an accident. While Max tries to explain, Steel alerts him they're being followed. Forced to act swiftly, Max rides down an alley to flee, leaving Sophia behind and puzzled. Steel advises they use the armor to escape, but Max refuses. Instead, he comes up with a scheme to split up and lose their pursuers. Though Steel feels it's a horrible idea, he follows Max's instructions when Max rides out. Steel punctures the tires of their enemy automobile to buy them more time. Max walks out of the alley and runs into Sophia, who immediately starts whining about how he always leaves her in the middle of a conversation. Max tries to explain, but shortly notices the SUV following him. Without much time to explain, he invites Sophia for a ride. She accepts and Max puts his bike in her truck. So, SIA drives him to Tech where they meet Dr. Miles. Inside, Miles shows them around the facility and shares anecdotes about working with Max's dad, Jim. Wanting further answers, Max asks to chat with Miles alone. He asks what really transpired during the accident that took his dad's life. Miles explains that when he arrived at the lab that day, it was already ruined. Miles then shows Max a small energy core, which he says was Jim's greatest project designed to capture any form of energy. According to Miles, Jim was so preoccupied with core that he skipped important safety methods, which Miles believes caused the lab accident. Shocked and upset by suddenly, Max feels his talents flare up again. The energy is soon absorbed by the center, but Miles doesn't say anything about it. So, Sia goes in, recognizing Max isn't feeling well and attempts to help him, but instead of staying, Max decides to leave, running away from both Sophia and Miles. As he sprints along the train tracks, Max has flashes of his dad's memories. Dizzy and disoriented, he suddenly realizes a powerful windstorm. A hurricane is coming toward him. Recognizing that this is an Ultral, he hiding inside some concrete pipes. After a few seconds, the windstorm abruptly pauses and Max hears someone honking nearby. He finds a woman whose automobile is halted on the train tracks. With a train fast approaching, Max uses his powers to jump-start the car, granting her enough time to drive away and escape. But the Ultra Linux isn't finished. He emerges, morphing into a raging tornado with a storm now dangerously close. Max runs to a nearby cottage for shelter. He thinks he's secure for an instant, but the tornado comes straight for him and destroys the cabin, leaving him exposed. Finally, the Ultralinch unveils itself from the storm, reaching out a big arm to grasp Max. At the last second, Steel arrives up. It changes into armor to defend Max, absorbing part of the impact. The attack pushes Max and Steel out of sync, and they are forced to run for their lives. They take hide behind a fence, yet Max is determined to halt the storm. He tries to use his powers, but fails, only managing to meddle with a neighboring railroad signal. The Ultra Linux closes enters and tries to draw Max into the storm again. Max holds onto the fence for dear life as Steel flies to him, re-inks and wraps him in armor once more. This not only saves Max, but also prevents the storm. With the tornado gone, Steel notices the Ultralinux core is exposed and urges Max to assault. Max listens and discharges a burst of energy, destroying the Ultralinux immediately. As Max stands there processing what happened, the demolished Ultralinux collapses in front of him. Its appearance strikes him. It looks almost equivalent to Steel. This causes memories of the night his father died, and Max immediately learns that the Ulton betrayed Jim. It had messed with the energy core, producing the accident that led to his dad's death. Furious, Max accuses Steel of being a traitor, believing he was somehow involved in his father's death. Ignoring Steel's attempts to explain, Max storms off, leaving his partner behind. Confused and enraged, Max returns home, but he finds armed men in the hallway of his residence. He instinctively suspects they've captured his mom, Molly. While trying to come up having a plan, the troops spot Max and chase him into the woods, forcing him to flee. Not knowing where else to turn, Max goes to Sophia. He vows to discuss everything later, but urgently asks for her truck and a phone. Using a unique glove, Max calls Dr. Miles and tells him his mom has been captured. Miles knows this is much like what happened when Jim was alive. He warns Max that they've likely brought her to the old N-Tech lab and that it's a trap, but Max doesn't listen and drives straight there. On the way, his power begins to increase, forcing street lights to erupt and making his truck stop working. Since his bike is still in the trash, Max bikes to the abandoned laboratory, searching for his mom. Meanwhile, Sophia phones Molly to check on Max. Molly replies she doesn't know where her son is, and Sophia mentions he has been acting weird since their visit to Miles. After hanging up, Molly asks some Intech soldiers if Miles ordered them to eliminate Steel. When she learns that he did, she realizes that Miles, Jim's previous partner, is a traitor. She tells the soldiers that she controls a majority of Antech, so they must listen to her and help find her son. Unaware that he has been misled, Max constantly hunting for his mom and eventually finds the lab where his dad worked. There, he discovers that someone is checking his vital signs. While exploring, he finds the life-sized energy core and understands Steel is stuck inside. However, the core has a protective layer, so Max can't get to Steel. As he explores, Max has another flashback and remembers that Jin and Steel entered the energy core to charge a weapon to attack the Ultralinks. But lieu of firing, Miles sabotaged the lab's defenses to let the Ultralinks in. He then locks Steel into the core, denouncing him of being a traitor to humans. While inside, Miles activates the core to absorb energy. Jim, resolved to stop him, resolves to overburden the system. He tells Steel to go into hibernation mode, which will help him survive the blast, and asks Steel to find and protect Max when he wakes up. Back in the present, Max regains consciousness and realizes Miles is after him because he's still learning to control his powers. He's readily overpowered by Miles. Trying to defend himself, Max utilizes his powers, but Miles wears armor that absorbs energy, so he isn't harmed. Miles then announces that Max will be his source of energy and pushes him to enter the core. Refusing to obey, Max accuses Miles of betraying his father and tries to fight back, but gets knocked down again. Miles then reveals that Jim was indeed an alien. In a desperate effort, Max enters the core, but plans to join with Steel. Inside the machine, he apologizes for disbelieving Steel and begins to overload the core with energy, distracting Miles, now reconnected with Steel. Max ignites his turbo mode and comes out of the core ready to fight. This time, he can fight back more effectively. However, Miles's armor continues to absorb Max's tachyon energy, making him weaker. To recover an advantage, Steel activates turbo camouflage mode, allowing them to sneak attack Miles, but Miles may observe their movement in the water, and he gains the upper hand again. As Max is pinned to the ground, Miles drains his energy and separates Guy from Steel. Just then, tech soldiers arrive and start shooting at Miles, giving Max a moment to reflect. Max devises a method to overwhelm Miles's armor and generate an explosion, just like he did in the forest. They rush at Miles and let him stab Steel's armor, activating turbo mode. With a massive spike without energy, Miles' armor begins to weaken as Max finally causes the explosion he wanted, defeating Miles, but using up a lot of his own energy. A few moments after the blast, Max and Steel wake up and are rescued by INTE warriors. Back home, Molly eventually tells Max the complete truth. After Jim's death, she moved to several cities to keep him away from the Ultralinks. When Miles suggested employing the N-Tech system for safety, she returned, almost endangering Max's capture, but they managed to beat Miles. However, the Ultralinks are still out there, and soon Max will be hunted by them. But with Steel on his side and his turbo mode ready, there's nothing that can stop him. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, leave a comment about your favorite movie and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.